here. I set him up, and I set him up on my couch, and I said, "You're not staying there. You need to go find a place." And sure enough, he found the Castilian, and his RA was Casey Gum. Casey Gum is the inventor and the triad that we had, and he had the idea of this sort of bead necklacing machine, automatic bead necklacing machine, and he shared it with Jason. So at the time there were a lot of hippies down there, doing their bead necklaces, and so Casey had a way to automate it, and Jason, with his know-how, he got Casey hooked up with a operational consultant who bid out the sort of idea and said to make a prototype of the idea would cost $150,000. So Jason and Casey went into business with each other to develop profits that they would sort of contribute towards creating this product, which was this automatic bead necklacing machine. So keep in mind, Jason was my friend from junior high and high school, and now he's living in Austin, and he's actually, they were selling hair products and computers over the internet in 1994. That was our business. It wasn't FT Squared, it was Feldman and Gum Enterprises. So I effectively was the Squared. And we weren't selling hair products and computers over the internet anymore, but what they brought me on in was because of some skills that I had developed in this authoring language, multimedia platforms. We saw the opportunity to use, bring together all this the convergence of all this digital media to help people communicate better and make money and be more effective. So they kind of brought me in for my skill set in that area, and quickly we found that was the area that was growing, and sort of we shed everything else in the business. But
except for the bead maker. Except for the automatic.
No, the bead maker is long gone.
No. Did it ever make it to market?
No. I mean, no.
It was buying that one.
Well, I mean, they had this whole idea that they were going to make the money on the beads, but I mean, it's not a big thing on the drag anymore. So that was like and plus this is a lot more lucrative. The internet is a lot more lucrative. So that was, that's where we talk about mastering your fears. I mean, all of this at the time, I actually was not, I wasn't all that scared at all because I was in school and didn't cost very much to live. I didn't have any kids. I didn't have a family. What a time to start a business, But I mean, now I have a kid, I have a family, and, I have a lot to lose, somewhat, depending on how you look at it. So, I face my fears every day, and I'm faced with the fact that I need to do new things to really, to stay competitive and succeed. Cool. Anything else? Let's move on. So this is the third lesson. The third lesson in 15 years is the Bootstrap model. So which has been really awesome. It's funny because when I met Bejoy, I was like, "Hey man, I'm living this Bootstrap thing. What do you think, man?" And he's like, "Why don't you learn the terminology first? Go to Bootstrap U on YouTube." So I took him up on the challenge. I think it was Friday night. I stayed up at work and I watched like all 12 hours and took notes and
Wow.
really mapped out the process and wrote down my thoughts at the time. And, it really.
Were you in awe of the hair like the rest of us?
What's that?
Were you in awe of the hair like the rest of us?
Well, what I thought was so profound about it, the Bootstrap model, the idea of pre-ideation, ideation, demo, grow, re-bootstrap, is that, it describes perfectly, sort of the journey that I've been on. So, and a few times over. And in fact, I mean, I've spent a lot of time talking to Joy about this. The funny thing about those 5 phases that I've learned is that they're always going. It's always shown like as a cycle or but it's like those phases are always going on at the same time, in different levels and operating on different elements of your business. So you have things that are emerging and things that are dying all over your business. And so you need to be aware of that. And, to be able to think of it in terms of a model is really useful.
Yeah. And the U plus U part, which kind of we added recently into the front part, can also be... I've also found there were some personal things, psychology things, for example, I had to deal with, things about... what was the other question? I don't remember anymore. But,
the
fears.
inner journey part of it.
Yeah, some of the fears and stuff, and there were some other issues that I just had to face and realize, this is, you gotta get past this before you can get on to the next stage, at least in this part of your business. And so there's even that U plus U, that's that internal journey part as well. It's, business is on a journey, you're on a journey. Ultimately.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm saying. It's not like one bootstrap experience that's going on at one time. I guess it's like several. So, and like I tell Bijoy, I mean, I am always in the valley of death. I'm always in it. I'm always like fearing that I'm not going to make it out of the valley of death.
Do you really, after 15 years, you still feel that?
I do.
And what is your fear that the economy is caused?
Well, it's that I'm not able. Basically, I'm not going to be able to create the economic advantage because I lose certain key assets at a time when I need people in particular. A lot of it's based on the ability to keep. A lot of my success is based on my ability to keep talent. Really high performance talent in-house and working together well, and all of them sort of at the same time contributing towards a specific need that our clients have that is not already sort of commoditized, overcrowded with people who are all saying that they do it and can solve the problem for a lot less. So in those sort of areas that are crowded, my business runs up against a lot of people who are recently out of a job or startups who just flat out, can sort of on certain levels of things that we've been successful with in the past, these sort of models can beat our models every time. From an economic standpoint, we can't really demonstrate value for someone paying more for our model if that's what they're buying from us. And so we need to constantly sort of, take it up a notch and be in tune with what the market needs and where the competition isn't yet prepared. So if we're not there, then we can fail. And that was like the big sort of thing is like if you are not ready to sort of change, re-bootstrap your business, or if you're not always looking at what you're willing to give up and start your journey over, and if you think that that things have to be a particular way because that's what you decided 5 days ago, then you stand to fail a lot easier than if you kind of employ this sort of mindset that pay attention to what the universe is telling you and go with it. And, and constantly push yourself to do more. So.
You had mentioned the importance for you of retaining top-notch talent. How do you approach this to talent acquisition versus talent development? Is it mostly a question for you of going and getting to that talent when you need it?
We've been a lot more successful when we've developed it.
Yeah.